This tutorial will guide you through the assembly process for the toy train. So we want to go to New, and instead of a part or a drawing sheet, we're going to go to Assembly, standard.iam. Now the assembly is where you'll bring in all of the different parts that you've created and attach them together so that we can get a look at the completed model. So we go to Place, and hopefully it opens up in your project or your workspace where you've been keeping your files. Train body is going to go first because that's what all of the parts are going to attach to. So I'm going to bring that in. I can zoom out a little bit. I just want one train body, so I'm just going to stamp it one time. I think I missed my stamp. Train body, click once to set it. And now I could put multiple ones down if I wanted. Right click, OK. And you see all the holes we drilled, and it's been a while since we created this part, so it may look a little new to you again, fresh. I'm going to go ahead and color this. I'm going to change the color. I just click on it. And I can go up to where it says Default. And I think I'm going to make this one, how about polished chrome? Let's see. There's copper. I'm going to do polished black chrome to give it sort of a pewter look. I'm making mine for an executive, let's say. Now, the hardest one to put on, I'm going to do it first. We're going to now put on the cow catcher. Now, the cow catcher is going to attach in these three holes. However, once you put it on, it's difficult to get to the third hole. So as long as two of the holes are attached, it won't move. So let's see how we do that. We want to bring in the cow catcher. So go to Place again, Train Cow Catcher, and Open. And I'm just going to stamp it once because there's only one cow catcher on a train. Right click, OK. And they're not lined up quite the same way, but that's OK. All we really need to do is make sure we insert one of the pegs into one of the holes, the corresponding hole. That will rotate the part around for us and line it up properly. So the way I'm going to do this, I think I'm going to what we call constrain this lower right peg. So we're going to go to Constrain. And we have different kinds of constraints. We have mate and flush constraints. We have angle constraints, tangent constraints. And this is the one we're going to use for the toy train. We use this for all of the different parts for the toy train. It's called an insert constraint. So anytime you have a round cylinder that is going into a round hole, you're going to use an insert constraint. So let's do that. We're going to select the base of the peg, not the end point, the base. Because that's the area, that's the part of the peg that we actually want to touch the hole. And that little click means it went into place properly. So I'm going to click Apply. Now, it's still not quite lined up perfectly yet, we don't think. For instance, I can grab and move it. So I can rotate the cow catcher around. Now you see how the train body's moving too? Right click on the train body and I thought it would let me pin it. Grounded, click grounded. And that means the train body, rewind. Let's go ahead and ground it before we put there we go. So we want to maybe double click on that. Nope, that'll open up. I'm going to ground the train body. So the train body will not move. I can try and grab it with my mouse. It won't move, but the cow catcher will. So right click, grounded. That's what we want. But you only want to do that with the train body. You do not want to do that with any of the other parts. Okay, so let's go back and insert one of the pegs. So I'm going to do a constraint and then make sure I change it to insert. And then I'm going to click on what's going to line up. I'm going to click on this part. I want to make sure I'm clicking the part of the peg that's going to touch the hole in the train. And make sure you're clicking the outside. You must, basically those two little rings have to touch. That's the goal here. Or at least be where they could touch. Now I could also offset them a distance if I wanted to, but I'm not. So hit apply. And now we know that our train body is grounded. So I can rotate the cow catcher around. So I'm just going to rotate it once, maybe to here. And now, or I could rotate it down, I get to pick which of the other two pegs that I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this other bottom peg, constrain the bottom peg to the other bottom hole. Now, if something goes wrong and this does not click into place, then it's quite possible either you did not dimension the distance between those holes correctly in the original train sketch, or you didn't dimension the pegs in the cow catcher sketch properly. They should both fit. If one of the dimensions is off, then you won't be able to insert constraint the cow catcher. Now, there is a workaround. You can go back. Well, I'll show you. If you had an issue with the holes, let's say, you can hit escape and make sure you're not in any modes, and you can double click on the train body. And now you can edit the train body. So you can go into, if you hover, you can find out where your holes were. So here are the holes. I'm going to click the plus sign. Here's the sketch. If I double click on this sketch, it brings me into the edit mode. And now I can edit the distance for these holes. So maybe you typed in 1.675 instead of 1.625. That would mean the hole's in the wrong place. So you can go back in and edit this distance now. 0.375 for the left hole, and then from this same side, or maybe go back from the other side, 0.375 from the right should be this hole. You may even have to delete one of these dimensions to get it to work. That's how you fix the original part. Now, if we're just trying to get this to work for the assembly, the other workaround is to make the bottom of the cow catcher level with the bottom of the train. And you would do that by doing a constraint, and instead of an insert, you can do what's called a flush. And a flush constraint would make the bottom of the cow catcher level with the bottom of the train. Now, if I do that right now, it's going to say there's an error because it would be over constrained because I've already constrained the cow catcher. But you can make them level with each other on the bottom. As long as one of the pegs is in, you should be fine. I'm going to change the color to my cow catcher, I think. Click it once. Change default. I think I'm going to go glossy gold. Ooh, that's really bright. Why not? All right. Next up, place. Let's go ahead and bring in the smokestack. Stamp it once, right click, OK. Same idea, constrain, change it to an insert. You can Well, and this time, notice, because the top of the hole is curved, I cannot select it. I can only select the bottom. So I'm going to select the bottom of the hole. And so what part of the smokestack is going to touch the bottom of the hole? This does not. This does. So we want to select, and be careful on the chamfer, there's two different rings. Which one's actually the bottom? So this is the one we want. So that one would allow it to click in. And click apply. Okay. So you see how this is working hopefully now. All right. So let's go ahead and do the hitch. So I'm going to place these two pieces, the hitch magnet, open, stamp once, right click OK. And then I'm also going to place the hitch peg, open, stamp once, OK. So the hitch magnet and the hitch peg both go here. So imagine the magnet is being held on by the peg. So what I might do, I'm going to go ahead and put the bolt inside the magnet using the same insert constraint. But this time I want to make sure I'm underneath the cap of the bolt, because it's this circle underneath the cap that actually touches this circle. And click apply. And now I can rotate through on the other side. This circle is what's actually going to touch the back of the train here. All right. So now that magnet is being held into the back of the train by the hitch peg. Click apply. All right, so we're doing well. Now we're going to add wheels, axle bolts. Let's go ahead and do the wheels and the axle bolts. We'll also have the linkage arms and link pins, but let's do wheels and axle bolts first. File, place, train wheel, open. Now I need 4 train wheels, so I'm going to stamp it 4 different times and then right click OK. I also need axle bolts, train axle bolt, open, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's rotate it around this way so you can see the front of the wheels. I'm going to go ahead and put the axle bolt into the wheel. So I'm going to constrain, insert. Let's rotate it underneath so I can see underneath the axle bolt. That part of the cap there is going to go right there. Apply. Same idea. Underneath the cap. Here. Apply. 2 more. Underneath the cap. Oh, I got to rotate it thanks to the other wheel. Apply. And finally, underneath the cap. Make sure you don't select the rim of the cap. You're getting underneath where the shaft is. Which wheel am I missing? This one. Okay, so we've inserted the axle bolts into the wheels. Now we go to the back side and we're going to insert this part. Now pay attention to this. We're going to insert behind the wheel into the hole in the train, but I need there to be a little bit of room between the train body and the wheel so that there's no friction slowing it down. So I'm going to do a 0.01 offset. And you may have noticed that it did move slightly. So if we zoom in, there is a tiny little bit of room between the wheel and the train body. That's a good thing. So all 4 wheels must have a 0.01 offset. Okay, let's try this. insert here, insert here, 0.01 offset, apply. If you forget to do the offset on one or two of them, then the linkage arm that we're going to apply next may not work, may not fit. So we're going to insert behind the train wheel here, into the hole here, 0.01 offset, apply, and then the final. Behind the wheel, train hole, 0.01 offset. Okay. Now, it's not, honestly, the assembly part is not too bad because we're using the same constraint every time. If you had to decide which constraints to use, it might be a little trickier. So the last pieces of the puzzle, we're going to take the linkage arm, and we need two of them, one for the left side and one for the right side. Click OK. And we need the pins that are going to hold the linkage arm in place. I need 4, 2 for that one, and 2 for that one. Click OK. Let's add a little color to these. So I double clicked on the part. And now I'm going to go in and change it to metal, 1600 Fahrenheit. And what that does now, when I go back to return, all of them have changed to that same color. So let's add a little color to this one. I'm going to double click on it. And now we're going to change it to a default for the, let's just go with silver. Okay. So now we need to take our linkage arm, constrain, insert, and then put it on one of train wheels. And so here's the peg that it's got to go on, but it needs to go at the base. So now that has been slid all the way on. And it went ahead, the computer program's pretty smart. It went ahead and figured out what I was trying to do. However, it is, it's basically anticipating what you're doing. So it did put it in level, but it's not attached. So we still have to go back and put another constraint on it. So I've got to rotate, this may be the most difficult part. You got to rotate your train around to the back side of the linkage arm. Insert constraint back here. And then put it here. All right, and that's on there now. So how do we make sure it's doing what it needs to do and behaving like we want it to behave? I'm trying to get it rotated back around to isometric. So if we escape out of that window and we grab the linkage arm, we should be able to rotate both wheels at the same time. That's how you know you did it right. All right, back to constraining. We're going to do the linkage arm on the other side, and then we'll put the pins in. Constrain, insert. Now here. Apply. Rotate to the back side of this linkage arm. Insert constraint. Back to the rim. There. And apply. All right, so now we need to get underneath the linkage pins. And we are going to go right under the cap. And then right into the hole. Same thing here. Click apply, then I do it again. Apply, do it again. This time we got to go to the other side. Apply, and the last time, the last assembly piece. and apply. And that finishes the assembly of the toy train. So you have the assembly now. All you have to do for submission for the assembly is just to take a screenshot. Well, actually, no. We're going to put it on a drawing sheet real quick. It doesn't take long. I'm not going to dimension anything. So let's just make sure we save. So click Save. You can call it Train Assembly. Let's do that. Train Assembly. And save. This window may come up if you've made any changes, and it says, do you want to save your changes to the original parts that you created? Make sure it says yes, and go yes to all. And OK. And so anything that you changed here is now updated in the original part file. So next time I open the cow catcher, it's going to look like it's going to be yellow as opposed to just being the regular gray that it was before. And you can go through and change some of these colors if you don't like your color layouts. Just double click on the part and then go up to Appearance and change it. And then once you've updated the original part, it'll update your assembly automatically. All right, now let's close that out here. Let's go to New, Drawing Sheet. Part name, Train Assembly. Student name, and the block. All we're going to do is bring in that assembly that we saw, set it in the middle of the page, in isometric view, and shade it. The reason we're doing this, imagine if we were turning in a document, you were turning in, a 15-page report to me. This would be the cover sheet. This is what would go on top. If you've ever played with Legos, this is the cover of the manual, the Lego manual, the instruction manual. I'm going to change the scale. I want this to be big. Yeah, I want it to fill up most of the page. Oh, I must have set it, but I didn't shade it. So right click on the red dotted box, Edit View, and make sure it's shaded. Click OK. And that is it for the train body. Save. Regular drawing sheet, but also File, Export, PDF. And this PDF will be uploaded to Canvas, and that's how I know you did the assembly.